to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. And yes, I am in an airport. You can probably hear the announcements over the speaker. They're always cramping my style. But I'm going to go on mute for a second. All right, anyway. So I am on my way to the Combine, about to head out to Indy. So I'm just waiting to board my flight in about 45 minutes. But in the meantime, I thought I'd go live, just talk about the latest updates from John Lynch as he spoke to the media today. Unfortunately, I was not able to be there for today. I would have really loved to ask John Lynch a question, but there's always D'Amico tomorrow. So yeah, we have that. Let's talk about some of the updates that John Lynch gave to us today. One of them being about Brock Purdy, who is set to meet with his surgeon early next week. As we know, his original surgery date was pushed back. And so at this point, he's looking at about a week after that original date. And it's possible that he can have his surgery early next week if the surgeon determines that the swelling has gone down. Now, John Lynch was also asked if there's a possibility that Brock Purdy's UCL has already begun healing throughout all this. And John Lynch doesn't really know, right? But he acknowledges that there is a possibility of that. So that would be good. And really, the bottom line is none of us will really know until the surgery takes place. We won't know whether this is going to be a 12-month recovery time and he's going to need a reconstruction, or if it's 6 months or maybe even less with the internal brace. So, John Lynch also acknowledged that there are a lot of different scenarios in terms of the timeline. So we'll just have to wait and see until the surgery actually takes place to know when Brock Purdy will likely be back. But Trey Lance, on the other hand, John Lynch talked about being able to see Trey Lance. Of course, this week he started throwing again, dropping back. So that's a great step for Trey Lance in his recovery. And apparently Lynch likes to watch players from his office window. Little creepy, little Joe from You vibes, but yeah, he likes to keep tabs on what people are doing out there, I guess. And Trey Lance is one of those guys. But one thing that he said about Trey Lance is that he doesn't see a limp, and he seems to be doing really well. So that's a great sign. As again, it's Trey's first week getting to throw again and run. So this is a great sign in his recovery. And he also said that he was impressed with the way that Trey Lance, kind of helped Purdy during the season. I think when he became the starter, and probably a little before that too. Hey, what's going on, East Coast? Red and Gold. Make sure you guys subscribe to them if you have not yet. Nathan says, I was watching Lombardi, and he said John Lynch is scouting a kicker. Yeah, I saw him mention that on his Twitter today. And so that's interesting, because to this point, I was kind of thinking like they'd bring Robbie Gould back. But it seems like they're at least going to look to see what's out there as far as kickers go. And I think if they don't find something that they like out there, then they'll probably look to bring Robbie Gould back. But yeah, they always have to do their due diligence and see what's out there. So yeah, that's kind of exciting. It's been a long time since the 49ers have been in the kicker market as far as rookies go, right? As far as the draft goes. So yeah, that could be exciting if you're into that sort of thing. Yeah, East Coast says they're doing their due diligence in case they don't resign Robbie. Exactly. But yeah, that was one of the topics discussed today as well. One of the lesser, I guess, important topics, but definitely one to keep an eye on throughout the Combine for sure. I brought my binoculars, and I do intend to keep an eye on John Lynch, and I'm going to see what he's looking at. So, but this is a little different than the Senior Bowl, a little different than training camp because I'm pretty sure at the combine is just one event at a time. You're not getting different drills happening at the same time, because if that happened, then I'd be able to specifically see what John Lynch would be looking at. But in this case, I think there's only going to be one thing to look at a time. East Coast says Robbie said he expects talks to start around combine. And that makes sense because like the combine is going to be a chance for the 49ers to get a good look at some players, kickers, and, see, right? Kickers go to the combine too. So, yeah, I'm guessing they'll be able to make a more informed decision after that as far as, whether they would want to draft one or not. But, investing money in there's going to be kickers there. There's about, let's see, there's 11 kickers who are, there are going to be 6 kickers at the combine to keep an eye on. Andrews Carson out of Auburn, Christopher Dunn out of NC State, Jake Moody out of Michigan, Jake Podlensky out of Georgia, BT Potter out of Clemson, Chad Ryland out of Maryland. So those are the 6 kickers who are going to be out there. But yeah, I think they're going to be looking at those guys and determining, is this an upgrade, both from a cost standpoint and, production standpoint from Robbie Gould. It'll be tough, but we'll see. But yeah, going back to the quarterbacks, John Lynch cited once again about Trey's inability to stay healthy. The quote was his biggest thing, talking about Lance, is the struggle to stay healthy. He's been saying this quite a lot. And so I get the concern because, you drafted Trey Lance to move on from a guy who was always hurt, like Jimmy Garoppolo. And so far, it's a small sample size, right? It's only been a couple of years, but so far, Trey Lance has been hurt. And despite what people will tell you, it's not always because of him running. Like, I think most of his injuries have been to different areas of his body. They haven't all been due to his, running. So I don't know where that narrative comes from, but whatever. People are going to be mad about whatever they want to get mad about. So on that subject, Lynch also acknowledged the fact that the 49ers may have to hit the veteran QB market. And this is something like we've kind of been saying for a while now because it just makes sense. I mean, they have to have someone else. Trey Lance is expected to be good to go in OTAs, which is great. But what about before OTAs? What about, in week 1, if Brock Purdy is not ready? You're only going to have Trey Lance? No, you need someone else on the roster. So I think bringing in a veteran or even drafting a guy in the later rounds is going to be the path that the 49ers take. I'm guessing, though, they're waiting for Brock's surgery to happen to make a decision on that as well. Because, again, as John Lynch mentioned, there are several different scenarios, several different timelines that are possible with Brock's surgery, and we won't know until the surgery actually happens. So I think they're kind of just waiting for that surgery before really knowing, okay, yeah, we're gonna need to bring in a veteran quarterback. But in any case, I think they should, because you need to be able to insulate yourselves just like they did last season with Jimmy Garoppolo. That ended up paying dividends, and so I think they know that they're going to have to bring someone in. Now, who that is, we don't know yet, but we know it won't be Jimmy Garoppolo. We know that much because, once again, John Lynch continues to be asked about Jimmy Garoppolo, and it makes sense, I guess, because 49ers do need a quarterback to bring in. But he pretty much said, I do believe that it's probably run its course, talking about the Jimmy Garoppolo experience in San Francisco. And so there you have it, guys. Jimmy Garoppolo is not coming back. 1, because I don't think he wants to come back. And 2, I think both parties, I think, are ready to move on. So who are the possibilities for the veteran quarterback that the 49ers could bring in? Well, Marcus Mariota was released today by the Falcons. That can be an intriguing option. I like that option. Frankly, a lot of people are bringing up the fact that Marcus Mariota didn't handle his benching very well last season. And so, would he even want to be a backup? And sorry if the announcements are very loud. Sorry about that. A lot of announcements happening at this moment in time. But yeah, Mariota, I think, would be a good option if he's willing to set aside the ego a little bit and is willing to be a backup. But obviously, it's a bit of a tough sell for any veteran quarterback because when Brock Purdy's healthy, this veteran quarterback likely becomes the third quarterback on the roster, right? So I don't know. It's going to be a tough sell, I think, for some veteran quarterback to make that decision because everyone wants a chance to start. And I don't know if they really get a good chance to start in San Francisco, but it really depends who the guy is, right? Um, but yeah, Mariota, I think, is an intriguing option. But once again, if he's willing to do something like that, Carson Wentz was also released yesterday by the Washington Commanders. That is an option I'm not a big fan of, and I discussed that in the podcast yesterday with Chris. So if you didn't check that one out, make sure you do. But I'm not a fan of Carson Wentz, and I would not bring him to San Francisco. I just don't see that being a good culture fit, among other things. Some other updates. Deshaun Gibson, we heard that he wants to play another year. At least John Lynch said his quote, I believe, was, "I think he wants to play and we'd like to have him back." So I don't know if that's super definitive. He said, "I think he wants to play." I guess that's a good sign. John Lynch would know better than most of us, I guess. But yeah, I would wait until we hear a more official announcement that Deshaun Gibson is coming back. But if he wants to come back, great. Like that frees up another potential position that the 49ers would have to address. I still think the 49ers would need to bring in a safety via the draft, but maybe it becomes a little less important, or a little less of a priority if Gibson is back for another year. Maybe he signs for a 2-year deal. Who knows? But good to hear those encouraging words about Gibson. The other guy that John Lynch was saying that he likes to watch from his window is Javon Kinlaw. He's been watching him working out at the team facility. Again, little creepy. Then again, I said I was going to watch John Lynch from my binoculars, so maybe I'm creepy as well. But Javon Kinlaw, he's been working out with the team. That is amidst reports of the 49ers apparently don't want to sign him to his 5th year. What is it called? 5th year deal, not. Oh my God, I'm blanking on the name, but you know what I mean. The 5th year option for Javon Kinlaw. They're not going to sign him to that. I think it makes sense. Kinlaw has had trouble staying on the field. This is his last chance, but even then, Kinlaw's career has kind of had the trajectory of Solomon Thomas in a way. Not so much, Thomas for the most part was healthy, but just didn't play well. And in this case, Kinlaw hasn't been able to stay on the field. So I think they've been equally disappointing as far as where they were drafted and what the 49ers have gotten in return for that pick, So Javon Kinlaw, probably not with the 49ers much longer beyond this following season. But at least, he's working out at the team facility, and John Lynch is happy about that, at least. Another update, Brian Griese, we heard that he will be back with the 49ers. I guess, it wasn't a multi-year deal that they had for Brian Griese, potentially. I just kind of assumed he was going to be back this season, but now we know for sure that he's going to be back. That's a great sign because Brian Griese was incredible with the quarterbacks this season. And it's crazy because what was the talk around this time last year when it was announced that Griese was going to be the quarterback coach? There was a lot of people who didn't like that because he had never coached before, and lo and behold, it ended up being a really really smart choice for the 49ers. It worked out pretty well, and I think we're all happy that Brian Greasy is back. I'd love to see what he can do with Trey Lance, because I think he did some incredible things with Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy. We didn't really get a good chance of seeing Greasy kind of work with Trey Lance, but I do expect that we see some growth out of Lance this season if he's given the opportunity to show that. Now, a couple things that happened after John Lynch spoke, a couple of other announcements. The 49ers tendered a 1-year contract to Jawan Jennings. Now, you might be wondering, well, he wasn't a free agent, so why are they signing him to a 1-year deal? It was Jawan Jennings was an exclusive rights free agent. And basically what that means is kind of what it sounds like. The 49ers had exclusive rights to him, and pretty much all they had to do in order to bring him back and just ensure that no one signs him away would be to tender him on a 1-year deal, which is pretty much a no-brainer because Jawan Jennings has been focal point of the offense, especially well, not focal point, but on third downs, he's been pretty important for this team. He's been a great option as the wide receiver 3 for the 49ers. So I think we're all pretty happy to have Jawan Jennings back. He's a very solid receiver for this team. And again, it was just a formality for the 49ers to sign this. This now means he won't be able to negotiate with any other teams. He's back with 49ers for at least another year. They also announced Tabor Pepper's extension. Again, me and Chris talked about this in yesterday's episode as well, so make sure you guys check that out if you did not. But Tabor Pepper, 3-year extension, one of the higher paid long snappers in the league now at this point. So congrats to him. Congrats on his family. So, yeah, those were pretty much all the updates, but we can talk about the draft a little bit. I mean, I'm excited to be at the combine. If there's anyone that you would like me to keep an eye on while I'm out there, I kind of got I have a list for myself of players I want to keep an eye on. But if there's anyone who you like especially and you want me to have updates ready for you guys, let me know. I'll try to go live while I'm out there. In fact, I have a player interview, not a player who's going to be at the combine, but just one of my prospect spotlight interviews tomorrow with, Fort Hays wide receiver Josh Okechukwu. I need to learn how to pronounce his name before I get him on the podcast, so that's priority number 1. But yeah, appreciate you guys checking this out. I'm probably going to go grab a bite before I board my flight. And next time you guys see me or hear from me, it will be from Indy, baby. All right. Have a good rest of your Tuesday night, people. Peace.